Can you name a single transgender video game character? No? Well, here's a brief transgender history of video games. It's time to nerd out. Transgender themes have been around since the beginning of modern video gaming in the 1980s. At the time, the presumed and target audience of video games was mostly boys, leading most early game protagonists to be non-speaking men. You had your Marios, you had your Links, you had your Pac-Mans. Only men were more non-speaking in real life. This was done so boy gamers could identify with and insert themselves into the characters. Yet this assumption of a male protagonist was subverted by Nintendo in 1986's Metroid, where, in an endgame twist, the protagonist Samus was revealed to be a girl. Boys who thought they were playing as a male character were surprised to learn that they were playing as a female character all along. She has boobs? Oh my god. This created one of the first instances where video games played with the idea of player identification and gender. There weren't many overt transgender characters in gaming in the 1980s, and even then, only from Japanese-developed games. You had Poison, a transgender villain in Final Fight, who was censored to be male when the game came to America. She would become a fighter in the Street Fighter series, but her potential trans identity is still nebulous to this day. Another nebulous transgender character around this time was Super Mario Bros. 2's Birdo. The game's manual stated that Birdo, a villain for the titular Mario, was a boy who, quote, thinks he is a girl, and would rather be called Birdetta. Like Poison, Birdo still exists today, but her trans identity is still nebulous. And the fact that we call her Birdo and not Birdetta is a problem, I think. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what Birdo even is. The rise in popularity in the 1990s of video games brought with it more transgender themes and characters, although many were still problematic. You had Rex Nebular and the Cosmic Gender Bender, an adventure game where a society devoid of women forced men to change genders. Yeah, not exactly great representation there. If only we had a society devoid of men. I love you men, you're great. The influential Final Fantasy VII features a scene where you cross-dress as a woman and have sex with a man. This sadly plays into the idea that trans women are just men in dresses trying to trick men into having sex with them. And that's not even getting into the issue of consent that scene brings up. But not all was bad in the 1990s. In the groundbreaking Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, the titular Princess Zelda passes herself off as the male Sheik in order to evade capture. Sheik is generally a badass and continually aids the player throughout the game. She also is kick-ass in Super Smash Bros. Melee. Don't anybody tell me different. Like Samus, the identity of Sheik's gender and identity comes as a twist at the end of the game. Nintendo really loves those gender twists. Does that mean Mario's gonna be telling us something soon? Also, the game Chrono Trigger contained Flea, a gender-fluid character who uttered what is considered to be the best pro-trans dialogue in gaming history. Male or female, what difference does it make? Power is beautiful, and I've got the power. Yet while these characters and themes played a much larger role than before, they were still not expressly called transgender. This changed in the early 2000s, again with Japanese-influenced characters and also mainly in fighting games. While we continued to get non-human trans characters like Final Fantasy's Queen of Quen, we also got Bridget in Guilty Gear, a boy who was raised as and presents as a girl, but who will beat the hell out of you if you get his pronouns wrong. Also, Leo Clisson was an overtly transgender character in the Tekken series. Punch the crap out of the cisgender BS, Leo. Also, this generation of video games led to the rise of the RPG genre, and with it, the game mechanic that let players pick their character's gender.
Hey, my turn, big guy.
While these were not transgender characters, it is an important moment in transgender gaming history. By allowing players to choose a character's gender, it gave players, both trans and cis, the chance to play with a gender that wasn't the one that was assigned to them. This was even more important during the rise of massively multiplayer online RPGs like World of Warcraft, where trans gamers could play as their actual gender in an online, public community. I knew there was a reason I love Azeroth. I don't play World of Warcraft. Recently, in the past few years of gaming, there has been a rise in overtly transgender characters. Big budget mainstream franchises like Dragon's Age, Assassin's Creed, and Watch Dogs have featured trans characters.
Yes, for your pillowy man bosoms. Let me know if you need help binding.
To varying levels of praise from the trans community. While some games got trans characters mostly right,
You don't have to pass for a man to be a mercenary.
I'm not passing as anything.
In Kunadar, Krem would be an Akunathlak. That's what we call someone born one gender but living like another.
And Kunari don't treat those Akun people any differently than a real man.
They are real men, just like you are.
Maybe your people aren't so bad after all.
others, like Catherine, got it very wrong. So wrong. Yet even this seems to be changing. 2017's Mass Effect Andromeda featured a character who was heavily criticized as a depiction of trans women.
People knew me as Stefan, but that was never who I was.
Initially, the character basically went, "Hi, nice to meet you, I'm transgender, let's talk about it." While that's certainly how I introduce myself, most trans people don't out themselves as soon as they meet somebody. Developer BioWare listened to the feedback and actually released an update that helped fix this problem. BioWare's willingness to listen and address the concerns of the trans community may represent an important shift in transgender awareness in video gaming. Also in 2017, South Park: The Fractured Butthole, that title, actually allowed players to choose to be cisgender or transgender in addition to being a boy or a girl.
You can start by simply saying, you know, I'm a boy or a girl or other. Do you identify as being cisgendered or transgendered?
Allowing this choice is revolutionary, especially for those of us who don't just want to see transgender characters, but want to play as them as well.
Just be careful, okay? Because there's a lot of people out there who don't accept you for what you are, and then you're gonna have to deal with them, okay? So, but come see me anytime.
While it's obvious that transgender representation in video games has a long, long way to go, by looking back at the history, we can see that we've already come a very long way. Now why the heck are you listening to me? Grab a controller because I want to play Mario Kart. Dibs on Birdo.